while also doing things like deadlifts and squats, etc.
I'm glad you're talking about all of this. Obviously, it's like it's such music to my ears. But I think the background of being a physical therapist is what set the stage for my focus on these things. Because when I was younger, pre-physical therapy days, I did all the dumb stuff too, and I did all the things, just the big things, and realized that it wasn't necessarily a path to longevity. But in the immediate and in my 20s, I was literally breaking down then. Like I had knee pain then, I had back pain then, I had shoulder pain then. So I think people who are in their 20s these days have the luxury of having access to videos like this, where they don't just say, oh, that's just maybe a hard workout. Now they start to say, well, maybe I'm actually doing some damage here, right? Maybe I do need to pay attention to the smaller things. And when you have enough videos out there that showcase these small things, for instance, you mentioned back pain, we talk about a major cause of back pain not being structural back pain, right? A lot of the times, the back pain that we suffer from in our lives is not surgical. It doesn't need surgical treatment. It just needs the right addressing of the muscles that contribute to that, or how we allow muscles to get tight that shouldn't get tight if we did 4-inch of motion on certain exercises, right? So in particular, I mentioned the glute medius, right? And the glute medius is a muscle that is going to control hip position, hip movement. So if it's controlling the position of our hips, that means it's controlling our pelvis. And if our pelvis is tilted or twisted or forward or backward, obviously the spine is literally adapting to the position of the pelvis beneath it because it's connected through the sacrum. So how is that not important, right? So all these muscles that connect to the pelvis that change its position are inadvertently going to change the position of the low back directly to the lumbar spine. That is going to likely cause dysfunction down the road if you don't address that. So it is these little tiny muscles and these little tiny exercises. So I made a video years ago about an exercise that you could do to help to loosen up if there was a knot in the glute medius, right? An area of spasm, a localized area of spasm. Because when the spasm's there, you adjust the way you move, right? You're in pain, so you're trying to move around that spasm. Something as simple as a leg raise down and back while holding down that pressure point on the glute medius helps to alleviate some of that discomfort and that spasm to the point where you can restore normal motion again because you're not avoiding pain. And all of a sudden the back pain goes away. There was nothing structurally there. Fine, that's a great video. It helped, I think 50 million people have seen it.
We'll put a link to it. This is the one where you should watch the video. This literally erased my back pain, what I thought was gonna require surgery. You lie on your side, one leg is in front of the other, toe down on the ground, you put it up and back. Jeff provides a beautiful description of what is essentially a very simple movement. But if you do it properly, the pain evaporates. It's wild. And I thought it was a back issue, but it was a glute medius issue.
Yeah, again, you can feel referred pain anywhere. But what happens next is, great, you solve that area of spasm. Why do we get spasm? Oftentimes it's because we're providing artificial stability to an area of weakness. Because spasm is basically the muscles holding on and saying, I need to protect this area. And so if the muscles around the low back are protecting that area, there's a reason for it. It's probably because the muscles that are supposed to be stronger are not strong enough. So that doesn't mean that you do this one thing and you're done. Yes, you might have no back pain that day, or you might have relieved that episode, but it means that there's an area of weakness that could benefit from strengthening it. So you come back and you start to do glute medius strengthening. I demonstrate an exercise where you put yourself up against the wall, right? And you stand on the leg outside the wall, furthest away from the wall. And you let yourself drop. You just let your hips drop, right? They get lazy. And when they drop like that, the only way you can get them level again is to slide yourself back towards the wall. And that's abduction of the hip that way to get you back to level again. That is the glute medius function, to get you back to that level position. Well, ironically, every time you lift a foot off the ground to walk, you're getting a pelvis that drops side to side, right? Every time you go in single leg stance, the pelvis is going to drop a little bit. The people that have less control of that have more of what they call a Trendelenburg gait, where the pelvis rocks side to side as they walk.
Like if you were looking at them from
Behind.
the back,
Yep.
pick your preferred opposite gender folks, and then the butt swinging from side to side.
It might look good on Instagram, but it's not gonna do good for your back, right? So you go back and forth. Well, all that uncontrolled motion starts to wreak havoc, and eventually those muscles start to say, I gotta provide this artificial stability. So what do? I spasm. And so if you don't extend the plan beyond the fix, how do you then build that strength up to prevent it from coming back? And so I'm all about not just the fixes, but really about the preventative things you can do to stave this off long term.
So we'll talk about the structure of a really good basic program. And many people talk about that, sets, reps, splits, et cetera. But let's just assume for a second that somebody listening to this is training their lower body twice a week. Mm-hmm. They're doing compound exercises and some isolation exercises, but they're dealing with some back pain, or they're not. They're in their 20s or 30s, or structurally they're blessed and they're not dealing with it. What are some additional things that we would call small things that make the big things possible for much longer, and also make people stronger at the big things that people can do? Would you say back hyperextensions? Would you say watch your video on glute medius training? What would be the exercise to insert, and how many times per week to do it, and when?
It's a good question. So reverse hypers are an amazing exercise. I like doing them because they're very easy to do anywhere. You don't have to have resistance on them. They make a great machine that actually provides resistance, straps over your legs that you can lift additional weight on. But the challenge for most people, remember, they're chronically weak in these areas. So even just the body weight lifting of their own legs is going to be a significant enough challenge to get overload. But you can literally do it on like your bed in the morning. You can get up, you lay enough of your torso on top of the bed so that you're not falling off the bed, but you can just have your legs hanging off your bed and your body up on top of the bed and do a reverse hyper.
So raising the heels
so that
up, they're parallel with the floor,
as level as you can get them. Again, the bed's a little soft, so sometimes you kind of dip down as you're lifting your legs up, but it's sturdy enough that you can get to almost a parallel position to the floor. I like to make sure, we'll talk about this, but like you're moving, the muscles are doing the work and not momentum, right? So you want to hold that contraction briefly at the top to convince yourself that you actually were able to perform the movement. So you get up, hold it for a second. And I think what's important on that too is people who don't have the strength in their glutes, because it really is a glute weakness issue, not necessarily a low back issue. A lot of times it's weakness in the glutes that's transferring the load to the low back that can't handle it. And people get the symptoms in the back, but it's the weakness somewhere else that's causing that. So I like to focus first and foremost on the glutes, glute max, glute medius, to make sure that they're strong enough. And again, if you test even big time athletes, we would test their rotational strength of their hips. Some of the strongest athletes, some of the biggest squatters, some of the best lungers, right? They're lunging over 200 pounds. You put them in position, you try to bend their hip into internal or external rotation of their bent knee, they can't resist it at all. So it just goes to show you that all the squatting, all the big lifts aren't enough to counteract the smaller muscles, right? There are different functions. A rotational muscle of the hip is not a sagittal plane muscle of the hip. It has a different function. So they all have to be strengthened. So along that line, we will do the reverse hyper as a good sagittal plane exercise focusing on the glute. When they get to the top and I tell you to contract it, squeeze so you know that's the glute that's squeezing and doing the work, not that you're arching at the low back, that you're using the muscles that are already overworked in the first place. So get that up there, squeeze, reinforce that it's the glute that did the work. Great exercise. The glute medius, like I said, the hip bump, super easy exercise. You could do it anywhere against any wall.
To the wall.
Against the wall. You could do it anywhere against the wall. Anything you can.
It is like a hip bump. You basically you raise the leg that's closer to the wall, like 90 degrees. Outer one, you're standing. It's almost like you're trying to slide that hip that's along the that's closer to the wall, up the wall. So it's like a kind of like side booty bump to the wall, but sliding it up.
Yep. And this is sometimes where you have to invest, and this is the small things, but they're also small investments. A little mini hip band, the little elastic bands, they're just loops, the little fit loop they're called. Put it around your heels, lay on your belly, bend your knees to 90 degrees, and then just try to open your feet apart, right? Spread your feet apart. So now you're strengthening rotation of the hip. Or hold one steady, let one leg, it's a little hard to show here, but let one leg come a little bit in front of the other and then try to cross it over the other one. So now you're getting external rotation of that hip. So you're working external rotation against resistance, internal rotation against resistance. Super easy things to do. You can attach a band around your ankle, and then you can do lateral hip swings, but with a component of rotating against the resistance of the band too. So I'm moving my leg out and rotating out at the same time. How do you do that? Just focus on your toe. If your toe is turning out, your hip is turning out. If your toe is turning in, then your hip is turning in. So you don't have to focus so much on how do I move that, just focus on what the foot is doing, and you turn it, as long as the knee is going with the foot, right? You're not just spinning the foot. The knee and the foot go together. So there's simple things, and again, you might need a band or a mini band or something to get these smaller muscles more specifically, but it's $10, $15 for a band. It's well worth the investment if you can get rid of these long-term recurrent issues that keep coming, back and causing agony every 2-3 months as a reminder of what you're not doing.